FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
The Bush family has had a number of documented business relationships or investments that overlapped with the bin Ladens. George H.W. Bush, the President of the United States between 1988 and 1992, was a promoting partner or principal of a private investment firm called the Carlyle Group that solicited investments from the bin Laden family and won those investments to the multi-million-dollar scale. But these were like hedge fund investments. So you essentially put your money into a fund and you expected the Carlyle Group to reward you with a return. But in the course of soliciting and sort of managing those investments, the Bush family had direct contact with the bin Laden family during the 1990s. And James Baker, who was George H.W. Bush's Secretary of State, also seems to have represented the bin Laden family in the 1990s at the time when Bucker's branch of the family was trying to decide how to manage its interests in the United States as Osama went off the reservation. And in particular, they were being requested by the FBI and the U.S. Embassy and the Central Intelligence Agency for cooperation in the emerging effort to get at Osama. And the family seems to have provided some cooperation, but as you'll see in the book, which I hope you'll read, there remained disputes among those involved about how cooperative the family really was. And in particular, some of the FBI agents involved in the investigation and the CIA officers involved in the investigation blamed the lawyers that the bin Ladens acquired for sort of thwarting their efforts to get a fuller understanding of what they were dealing with. And Baker seems to have been one of the lawyers that the bin Ladens consulted in this time for advice. And they were concerned, for instance, about Treasury Department sanctions that might freeze the family's money as a way to either punish Osama or because there had been some fact-finding of family culpability. And these were the kinds of things that they kind of lawyered up to deal with as 9/11 approached.
And they stood to lose a lot of money should their assets be frozen.
Yes, and they started to unwind their U.S. holdings almost at the moment that Osama started to emerge as a potential threat. And by the time 9/11 came, they really didn't own the kind of look, their U.S. investments, while extensive and in some cases entertaining, were never a very great share of their fortune. But that which they did have here, they pulled out, excepting the Carlyle Group, which they continued to have an investment in. In fact, Osama's half-brother Shafiq was in the Ritz-Carlton in Washington, D.C. on the morning of 9/11 when the planes went into the Pentagon, and he was at an investors conference for Carlyle. And one of the fascinating things about the birth records is that, remember that cluster of sons that I referred to all being born around the same time? Well, Shafiq seems to have been born within weeks of Osama in 1958. They were both singleton sons. So on that many years later, one of them's in the Ritz-Carlton and the other one's sending a plane into Washington.